Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Please, for the sake of the people, let the people know who am I sitting here with.
My name's Austin Geyser. I am a hard money lender now. I was a wholesaler previously, worked with this guy back in the day.
That's right.
And happy to be here.
Fantastic. And obviously this, for those that don't know, we're filming this with our meetup event going on in the background. Talk to me about, I'm always curious about the lender side of things because I've been in wholesale real estate since we were working together, so I'm ignorant a little bit more so to that side. What does networking mean in your business? I mean, is it just as valuable as I would consider it?
I would consider it even more valuable. To be completely honest, when I was wholesaling, I was not networking nearly as much as I should have been. A lot of my business was direct to seller. I was networking with agents, of course, to get deals that way, but I didn't network the way that I should have. This is my first meetups were when I started lending, actually, is when I started going to these meetups. So network really means everything when you get into lending, and I'm realizing that more now that I'm getting into the space. I think every deal that I've done has been from someone that I've met through a meetup or from word of mouth from another person. I've not had a single deal come through that I've loaned on that came from like an ad or anything like that.
Wow, so literally without networking, your business as a whole in the lending space ceases to exist
100%.
historically.
100%. It's extremely valuable. I mean, I came to this event, the first event that you guys held, I believe it was 2 months ago.
Yep.
And I ended up meeting 3 or 4 good investors that I talked to. Ended up meeting this couple that has been investing with cash for 10 years. They did 18 deals in the last 2 years, and they're buying all of these cash. Talked to them for a little bit. They were like, maybe we should start using hard money. I've had 2 term sheets issued to them in the last 2 weeks. So I think these events are extremely invaluable.
Just chance encounter is a little bit of an overstatement because you have to put yourself in the position. But I mean, really coming here is not that hard. Networking can be intimidating for a lot of people, but particularly in a space where there's so much on the line financially and the right relationship can change your year even, in both my business and what I understand about yours. I mean, something like that is just a perfect example of that, right? Oh, you're finding somebody, clearly it's a match. You're saying, hey, here's the service. You should really consider this. You're not slamming anything down anybody's throat. And they're going, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense for us. That's just literally you coming together in unison and solving each other's problems.
100%. 2 of the biggest things that I love about the lending space is, one, my product's great. I don't have to really sell it. My job is really to become friends with people and be top of mind when they do need money, because there's so many lenders out there that you just want to be the person they call when they have that deal come up. So my whole job is to be someone who people connect well with, who they want to talk to, who they want to work with. The other thing that I love about this space is I don't just work with these people once, buy a house from them or sell them a deal and don't hear from them again. This is repeat business. So this is something where we build a long-term relationship. We can really get to know each other, and it gets better with time.
I think that is something that we both have in common with our industries is unlike something that a lot of people know about traditional real estate, right? You have a real estate agent, and yes, they may make a client book, but you've got people who are buying houses for them and their families to move into. They may never hear from them or get a chance to do business with them for another 5, 15, who knows how long, right? Whereas we have the privilege of making these connections with these folks and doing business at regularity, because this is these people's business. It's not just them purchasing a house, or it's not some one-off thing. So I completely agree with you there.
And I think privilege is the key word there, because it really is a privilege to get to work with these people. Like I said, there's a ton of lenders in this space. They could go almost anywhere and get very similar terms, very similar rates. So it's a privilege. Every time I get to work with someone, I'm really honored that I get to work with that person. I'm honored, and I really treat that person with the respect and the customer service they deserve, because I want them to come back to me. I want them to come back and say, hey, I had a great experience the first time. Your processing team was incredible. We closed on time. There was no frills with this thing. I had a good experience. I want to come back and use you again. And then it kind of snowballs from there, because they tell their friends about it. They say, hey, I have this guy, Austin, and he funded this deal in 2 days for me when this other lender was going to take 2 weeks. Give him a call. Networking is incredible. Working with these people is incredible. And like I said, it really is a privilege.
Okay. Well, you're singing the praises of it. I'm so happy to hear how happy you are there, and that this is seems to just be working out perfectly for you. I'm not surprised with somebody of your talent and acumen, but to have pivoted careers like that and found something in the same space but of a different variety, completely awesome. But I want to pivot a little bit and take it to, you brought up something good, right? And we know Easy Street Capital as sort of the saviors in a way, because we work with so many investors, and just as investors have choices of who to buy deals from, us being one sourced or a million places to buy a deal from, they've also, as you duly mentioned, they can go anywhere to go get some money, right? Provided they get qualified, and et cetera, et cetera. Easy Street to us is about not only relationships that we built well into time, but also speed. Speed is so critical in this game, and I think it's often overlooked. A lot of times there's so much money on the line that realistically what might matter most in a deal is not an extra point, is not an extra this or an extra that. It's literally getting the deal closed on time, right? Talk to me about, at least in your experience or even maybe what you've heard prior to even being there, what is the quickest transaction that you've heard is closed?
I mean, before I even worked with Easy Street, when I was on the wholesale side doing deals, we had a deal when I was back at a previous company that needed to close. It was a fall apart deal. The lender fell out. Then Easy Street stepped in, literally closed this thing from getting the term sheet underwritten, getting docs in and signed in 24 hours. Not even joking, 24 hours. 48 hours is the timeline that we tell everyone we can do. We're confident in that. But they got it done in 24 hours, saved the deal completely. This investor was, I'm sure he's a lifelong customer. I don't work with him personally, but I wouldn't go back to anyone else after something like that. Speed is the name of the game.
What gives you guys the ability to move so quickly?
An incredible team. Incredible team. For everyone from underwriting to processing to servicing is on point, professional, rowing the same boat in the same direction. For example, our underwriter, we have one underwriter for the whole West Coast area, and he's knocking out 10, 15 of these term sheets a day. We underwrite everything prior to issuing terms, so that's somewhere where we excel that other lenders might fall apart on. A lot of lenders will get you a term sheet, they underwrite it 5 days later, they realize that maybe their terms weren't accurate, and they have to retrade that loan and change terms on you. Everything we do is underwritten prior to even issuing the terms. So not only are we quick, but once you get that term sheet in your hands, you know that that is what you're going to get. It's our commitment. It says on the piece of paper that this is our commitment to get this loan done at these terms on time, and we stand by that. And the only way we can do that is having such a phenomenal team, from the leadership to the underwriting, servicing, processing, rowing in the same direction. I'd argue that we have the best processing and underwriting and servicing team in the business.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's hard to argue, and I personally have had so much experience and directly, and of course my sphere of business influence, have pretty much innumerable stories of Easy Street coming to the rescue. That's a pretty impressive one, though. 24 hours is a little bit unheard of. Okay, I want to flip the script a little bit. We've talked about a lot of positive stuff. What to you, when you think about, okay, the transactions that you've been a part of, that you've had the privilege, as you've said, of loaning on, and the people you've had the privilege of working with, what has become something that's somewhat of a red flag that you may see in a transaction or in a buyer or in any other element that you regularly deal with, that you've seen with regularity, that's gone, like, now that you've become proficient and a professional in this particular industry, kind of when you see it in the beginning, here this again?
I don't think there's too many red flags. I'd say the biggest one, the one that I run into most frequently, is when a borrower's just unwilling to share information when it comes to their finances, their credit, the deal that they're looking at. They're so withholding of everything.
Okay.
Typically boils down to that borrower is either not qualified, they don't have that deal locked up, they don't have the finances to cover their portion of the loan. That's really the only red flag. Everything else we can usually work with. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at working through the small issues of, multiple partners on an LLC. This guy has this much money. This guy has this much credit. We're going to kind of play the game of figuring out how we can get that loan to max leverage. But the one big red flag is the borrowers who just don't want to be open with their information. They don't want to share what's going on with the deal. We can work with them. At the end of the day, we can get that deal done. But what tends to happen is when you get into escrow, that borrower is a headache to deal with. They're super difficult to get anything from. Their docs get signed late. And that's really the only big red flag that I've seen in the industry.
When you have that particular buyer where there's like that air of like secrecy, or they're kind of just withholding, obviously now after you explaining this makes perfect sense, right? I don't necessarily know why somebody would jump into something like that and be start taking the steps forward with you guys, knowing very well that they don't have the capital. But either way, I wanted to ask: is there, at least in your experience, or in the industry, was there ever a moment where that actually just it was a red flag from the jump, but it just turns out the guy was just a private guy, or it was just maybe you guys were seeing all those potential issues that were about to pop up, but it just turned out actually it was all good? Or is it pretty much guaranteed if you see this stuff, it's get ready for the ride?
I'd say it's 99% of the time. If they show issues up front like that, we're probably going to have issues with them in escrow. But there is the odd case where the guy is just private. I actually ran into a guy today. He was pretty private with everything. He didn't want to share the address of the deal. He didn't want to share how much money he had. But then I talked to him for maybe 30, 45 minutes, and it turns out that he's just a really private investor. He's actually a really big investor, and maybe that's why he's so private and withholding with his information. Maybe he's been burned in the past. Maybe something has happened. So I'm not going to say every investor that is tough to deal with in the beginning is going to be tough to deal with till the end. Sometimes you just have to build that relationship. You have to have that conversation and be willing to sit on the phone with these people for 30, 45 minutes to really understand their situation. And that goes back again to just providing good customer service. I want to understand what's going on in their life, what's going on in this deal, so that I can be the best loan originator that I can be for them.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be able to provide the best service, and without ample amounts of information about the background, very difficult for you to do.
Yeah.
But I guess there are exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, you guys know what you're looking for.
When you see it, it usually runs that way.
Okay, so I don't want to take too long. I know you got people to meet out here. Clearly, networking is very important. I might have just kept you from the next, huge paycheck. So let's make it brief. Okay. Last question. I just want to pivot to a more personal note. If you, in today, right, looking at yourself in the past, pick the moment. Obviously, you've come a long way just in your career in real estate. I mean, we have known one another for many, many years already. It's amazing how quickly time goes. But if you were looking back, pick the moment in your lifetime previous to this, what would you tell your former self if you could give them any advice whatsoever?
I think the biggest thing I would say is don't be afraid to put yourself out there and take advantage of every opportunity, because you don't know who you don't know what you don't know. It's all a learning experience. I'm sure you can attest to the fact that every day in this industry, every day in this business, you are learning something new. And if you're not willing to take that step forward into the unknown and take a chance on something, you're not going to learn the lesson that's life's trying to teach you. So I think my biggest advice would be don't be afraid to put yourself out there in terms of networking events like this, getting in front of people, talking to people, telling them what you can provide to them, and being confident in the fact that you can provide them a good service. And also, just when an opportunity arises, don't take it for granted, because every opportunity is a chance for you to do business, make money, and show that person that you can do business with them in the future, build a great relationship, make friends in the industry. That I've known you for maybe 6-7 years now. It's been a long time. And I've known a lot of these guys here for that long time, and a lot of it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't willing to put myself out there in the first place and even give this industry a shot. This industry is all about taking chances and seizing opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. I've asked a couple of people that question this evening, and that's probably the most relatable answer. If I were asked that question, I'd probably say the same thing, because I went in really, really apprehensive. And I think, on top of that, I would just add that you can accomplish more than you believe you can at the end of the day, but without putting yourself out there and without at least faking the confidence until it becomes part of who you are, you'll never know. Just as you said, you don't know what you don't know, and you're not going to find out until you put yourself out there. So to wrap this up, if people want to find you, somebody listening right now, it's dude, I got to get this guy on board. I have cash. I have whatever. I need a loan. Where do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Austin_Geyser. You can email me, AustinG@EasyStreetCap. I'm always available. I'd be happy to talk. And if you want to call me, my cell phone number is 909-767-7988. I eat, sleep, and live this business. So if you want to call me at 9:30 at night and talk numbers, let's do it.
You heard it here first, folks. Well, I appreciate it, Austin. Thank you so much. If you guys want to get a hold of him, I mean, you got, it sounds like you damn near gave away his house address. So you know where to find him. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.